Good morning.
Oh,
We're
good
here.
morning. Shayna's muted now.
I forgot I was muted. That was very violent, EJ.
It scared me.
Good morning. Hey, you don't never know what's going to come out of my mouth.
This is true.
I don't either.
It's always a
So
surprise.
that's all of us.
Well, good
Shayna,
morning.
Jenny, and EJ.
I'm glad to be back. Sorry, last week I wasn't here. I missed you guys.
We
We had a
missed
lot
you
going
too.
on. So I'm really glad to be back this week. Thank you for having me back. Thanks for not firing me for missing last week.
We considered it. It was just
I mean,
I thought so.
it wasn't quite a no call, no show. You were just like a last minute call in. Like,
Yeah,
man,
like flat
everybody
tire. Yeah. Yeah. We've actually had like all kinds of car issues the past week. So it really has been kind of a joke. Like we wake up and see which car isn't going to work that day. And yeah, it's been an adventure. But it happens. Good morning, Rob Jones.
and everybody else. Rob is tuning in from Kansas City. Say hello to my buddy Justin Gandy out there, if you will. If not, it's fine. What are we talking about today?
We are talking about remote work, I think, kind of dabbling in that and how it impacts our businesses and how it might impact our businesses in the future. I know many of us have some ideas about remote techs, which I don't have a whole lot to say about, but you might, EJ, from your journeys with talking with all kinds of other professionals in our industry.
I feel like I need some help with this because I've hired a guy and he starts on the 16th. And he lives, depending on which direction you go, either an hour and a half or 2 hours away from our office. And I'm not really sure how to go about doing this. I didn't really think it all the way through. So maybe we can talk about some of that too.
Yeah, I feel like as business owners, that's what we do. We figure stuff out. And we figure out hard things that other people don't feel like figuring out. And so that's what makes us what we do. Yeah. So I absolutely 100% believe that you're going to solve that problem with God's help and the people around you. And we're going to figure it out.
Yeah. So what was that quote that Tommy used in the book? Entrepreneurs have a tendency of jumping out of an airplane and building a parachute on the way down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I feel like.
That's a good quote. So I have a couple Bible verses to pick from this morning, but I didn't want to hijack that if you guys had picked out a Bible verse or you wanted to read from your book, EJ.
I didn't because I knew you had some.
Okay. So I can start there. I'll share all three because they're all kind of cool. And I have employed the use of ChatGPT to help me find Bible verses, which I didn't even think of until recently. Like, why not ask ChatGPT? I think ChatGPT can be a Christian too, right? Like it's learning from all the other Christians out there. At least it can point us in the right direction. So I'm going to share with you what ChatGPT thought was some good Bible verses that went along with our topic this morning.
I'm going to say this before you do. Everybody remember the Bible verse, study to show thyself approved. So if she's going to be reading Bible verses from ChatGPT, we have to trust but verify.
Well, I think we should also be working really hard to teach ChatGPT Bible verses. Well, so I'm going to ask it every week to come up with some Bible verses because I think the more of us that put in prompts about Bible verses, the better for humanity, right? Because it spits out what we're asking it and what we're putting in there. So we're going to train ChatGPT to read the Bible. So I have Proverbs 16:3. And these are all from the New International Version. commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. And it even tells us this verse can be a reminder that while the future may be uncertain, entrusting our work to God can provide guidance and stability. Then we have Ecclesiastes 3, verse 1. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. And that acknowledges the changing nature of work and the need to adapt to new seasons in business and life. Then finally, Colossians chapter 3, verses 23 and 24. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. And that, ChatGPT says, encourages a dedicated and heartfelt approach to adapting and growing regardless of external change. So that's pretty good.
I like that last one the best, I think. I've used, I think, all three of these Bible verses in morning grinds before, but I really like the Colossians 3. Uh,
Mhm.
whatever you do, do it with all your heart. Uh, I think that that's the meat and potatoes of what we do in the home service industries. The people that find the most success, not just money, but their most success and get the reward uh, of feeling like you've satisfactorily took care of people
Mhm.
uh, are the ones that do this. Because I don't do it for the money. Beyond we need the money to live to provide for our families, but the things I do ain't so I can make more money. And I don't believe anybody on my team is doing it at the heart for the money. They
Yeah.
they could surely go somewhere else and make more money. Uh, we pay them well and give them incentives and performance pay, but we do it to help people. We have the joy of helping others, and to me, that's what we're doing. Jesus called us to love God and love His people, and that's what I can do with all my heart is just
Yep.
serve people.
So, and to this topic too, if you're, just to not to, I'm not going to dive too far in because we still have to pray, but thinking of it in relevance to remote work, if you have people that are doing remote work for you, or you're doing remote work, that means you have to be accountable to yourself and the work you're doing. And so if you're not doing it for the right reasons and you're not doing it with all your heart and working as if you're working for God, then there's going to be a problem because we're all human. So I like that verse a lot too, for sure. That's probably my favorite one too.
Amen.
So who's going to pray us in? I think he's pointing at you with his eyes, Shayna.
I'll do it.
Awesome.
Heavenly Father, thank you and I praise you for once again breath in our lungs and for allowing us to be here. Father, just lead us and guide us in our words during the podcast. And then everybody who listens to this, Father God, let them see your glory through this podcast and let them know that you're there with them. And as we continue throughout our day, Father, that you just be with us, that you lead us and guide us, that you keep us safe and help us to all be ministers for you, Father, that you just put people on our pathway that we need to talk to or pray with, Father, that you just be there with us and help us to be able to be that shining light for you. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen.
Man, man, I
I
got about
forgot.
allergies that started. My
I
nose
have an
is
exciting
acting up.
I have an exciting announcement. I can't even contain it anymore. I'm very sorry, but there is a brand new EJ in town. Ephraim James, my little nephew, was born 2 days ago.
And
So
he
just
is
want to
cute as a button.
He's super cute, and mom and baby are doing well. So welcome to the world, Ephraim James.
Is that
Woo!
Bill's son?
It is my littlest brother, Steve, his
Oh,
son. This
I
is
don't
going to
I
be their
don't
last
know.
baby.
I don't know if we needed another EJ. I think one is probably enough.
I don't
yeah.
know if they'll call him EJ, but I think there might be some possibility that people call him EJ instead of Ephraim. But
EJ,
he is
not a bad name.
no, he's a cutie. So welcome to the world, little man. We're excited to have you in our family. So
You know, one thing I always remember when we're looking at little tiny baby pictures, you know that not all babies are cute.
I have
Yes.
seen some ugly
Some
ones.
babies, some babies come out just hideous,
Mm.
or they look really weird. I know pretty much. I mean, compared to full-grown humans, babies look weird, but a lot of babies are cute, and some babies are not. I've had
Yes.
some not cute in my family, not from me. Mine have all been very cute. But I'm going to tell on myself here. When you show a picture of a baby to me in live, you know, face to face, I just say, "Oh, it's a baby." Uh, that's the cue. That's when this is a hideous baby or it looks really weird. Uh, Otherwise, I say cute baby. Oh look,
It's a
it's a good
baby.
looking little feller. Uh,
Well,
Definitely is a
this little
baby.
guy, this is a winner. Ephraim is definitely cute.
Little EJ is definitely a cute one. I did not say, "Oh, this is a baby." Uh, yeah, he's a good-looking feller. He's EJ. So, what else would we expect?
Nothing less.
All right, let's get back on track here.
So, have you guys ever worked remote? Have you ever experienced a remote work for
Well,
yourself?
technically, yes.
How would we define remote?
So, I guess it would be anytime you're not working in the headquarters area of your employer.
So, would that be like all of our techs, where they
No.
come into the office and then they go out and work?
No, that would be if you have a tech that never, ever, ever comes in the office. Like for instance, you
Or
were to
very
open up a
rarely?
shop in Southern Illinois,
Yeah.
that tech would be remote from your home base business.
What if you was in Southern Illinois and hired somebody that lived in Michigan, but
They would be
every
remote.
now and again they came to the office?
Well,
So
like I do. Like I come to the hospital, it used to be every month. Now it's once a quarter, but I consider myself remote because 99.9% of the time I have to be responsible for getting myself doing all the things that I'm supposed to do every day and having integrity and showing up for my team and all that without somebody prodding me and making sure I'm doing my work every day.
Yeah. So I don't think I have worked remote before. Like I've had some jobs where I've had to go out of the office, uh, but not remote. I have remote people that work for me.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Not Shayna, but her team.
well, I mean, I've had to make a few phone calls lately, and I think I may have called one of your customers. I did call some customers for Ginny yesterday.
Great.
Woohoo. They got
It's
the
not
Your
tires
always
cus
good when
rechanged.
Shayna gets on
your
the phone.
customers are so easy. Like, don't give me California customers, New York customers.
Who mine are easy? That's
Yours
good
were
to know.
easy. Super easy.
Yay. I like
Yay.
that. That's like
You have
hearing that your
nice people
children
there.
behaved. I love
Just like
it.
I would call anybody in Texas because on the phones are the nicest people. Now get them on the road. It's a different story.
Well, we have had a couple winners that almost made Shelby cry before. Um, you know, we do get our people, but they're not usually from around here. They usually moved here from somewhere else with grumpy people. I don't
California.
know. uh, yeah, Rob. So COVID, I think that we can't have this topic of remote work without mentioning the C word because it is absolutely it revolutionized and changed remote work in our country, I think, and probably all over the world. And it made my remote position possible. There wouldn't even have been a consideration without COVID. You just can't drive 75.
You also can't drive 90 and expect not to get run over. So, saying.
So,
Now, so
one
now
one thing.
anytime anybody cuts me off, I just say they're from Texas.
They're crazy drivers in Texas. Like my friend from 7th grade lives there. It's scary. I don't like driving in Texas.
I think EJ is changing the subject back. Okay, let's go.
So, so one thing about COVID and remote work, it's a result of the economy or the world changing, right?
Yep.
And the things that happen, COVID, and you'll notice that some businesses are still trying to do business the way they did in 2019. Uh, some of those businesses aren't doing business at all anymore,
Mhm.
and there's a reason for that. But the ones that you see that are still growing and thriving are the ones that have adapted to the changes. And some of that has been remote, going to remote positions like this. They did it as a result of the scary COVID, but um, some have found great efficiencies in this. When you get your back up against the wall and you figure out a way to operate when everybody in the government tells you you can't operate, uh,
Mhm.
what do you do? What do you do? So,
Well, in our co-working space, some I guess my point is some positions can't be remote. Like in our co-working space, we need somebody to be a body here to open the door and stay here to let people in and then close up shop and open the blinds and make sure the place looks decent and stuff like that. So there's some positions that can't be remote. You can't have a remote waiter, right? Like somebody has to wait on people in a restaurant. So there's just some things that just can't be adapted to remote work, but like some things can. For example, Logan was working in our office over the summer and started taking on some responsibilities of bookkeeping, and now she's back at school at college and she's keeping those certain things that she can do in a remote capacity, and it's a huge help to us. So without thinking outside the box and allowing for some remote work, you could really miss out on some super reliable people that can help you out and that you can trust. So what are your thoughts about what things do you think you traditionally viewed as they had to be in person, but they really don't? Like, is there anything in your jobs that you think could be remote work that you didn't think they could be initially?
Well, I mean, I feel like with me, I've been in the industry for so long. So you look at even 10 years ago, we didn't have the technology. Like the technology was there, but not really. Like people didn't have it in their mindset. 15 years ago, we didn't have the technology and some was there, but it just wasn't where we are now. Like to ever dream that I would do this 15 years ago, I would have never dreamed it. And now I tell people if it can be done remotely, we do it. Like we've even had
Mhm.
people mail us signed checks so that when they need to do refunds, we're mailing those out, papers so we can scan them in. Like we're not there, but yet we can still do the work that they need us to do. So it is really crazy. I can't be there when the delivery truck brings the parts and sorts the parts for EJ, right? I can't do that. But we've ordered parts for customers before. We do the warranty work for customers before, and it's just absolutely crazy how far we've advanced. And what's it going to be like in another 15 years from now?
Mhm.
Like this wasn't really truly a thing then. Nobody would have thought of this other than just having just a regular answering service. Nobody would have thought of this.
How about you, EJ? Do you have any ideas of things that you're doing in your office that you think might be a possibility for remote?
well, for one, I I originally didn't think it would be a good idea to have somebody answer my phones that I can't see while they're doing it, uh, or directly train them myself. Uh, and my office help has proved that to me out of necessity. Good morning, Jason. Thanks for joining in. He logs in from all of his Facebook accounts and then says, "Hey, we love you." Uh, So yeah, that's something. I I'm kind of a control person, right? Um,
More than
I like,
kinda.
what's funny is every time you guys see me look at Shayna this way, I'm actually looking the opposite direction and I'm looking at the wall. Uh, so think about that. That's funny.
Funny.
Uh,
Yeah.
I
Yep.
I
Think
kind of like knowing that that I have some kind of control over it. And one thing that I've learned in this operating the business is releasing some of the control frees me up to be able to get more stuff done.
Mhm.
So I don't know what else. We have done parts ordering remotely. Uh, I don't do a whole lot of things remote right now, except for what Shayna does for us.
Well, one of the things that comes to my mind is just our ability to meet as colleagues on a regular basis from all over the country and share ideas and have our book club on Wednesday mornings and our mastermind on Monday nights. And I have students from Kentucky and from Colorado that I meet with regularly. And it's just, that is amazing to me that we can share screens. We can be all be looking at the same thing and be solving problems together, like an Excel spreadsheet or how to do a pivot table or looking at our KPIs together. And that's just, it seems second nature because we're doing it all the time now, but it's amazing that we could
It
all
is.
be looking at the same document in front of our faces and collaborate on something from all different, even time zones, different countries.
I
It's
remember
incredible.
our first mastermind that we were part of in 2005. It was about how do you even get more than one company, more than one person on a phone call at that point, and not all phones could do it. And so that was fun. But yeah, everything was done via phones, or we might have to email a document so we could see instead of just being able to share. You couldn't share screens. There was no
Wait,
Zoom.
I said freaking. I didn't say a cuss word.
Well, he
I
really
did not.
found
I
out
would
how to
not say that.
derail it.
Oh, pivot tables. That's his. That's his curse word. Pivot tables. Okay. I was like, pivot. What? He
So
scared me.
Stephanie has completely improved our KPI reporting, but she uses Excel pivot tables. There I go. Uh, and
So funny.
I'm excited because I know exactly what our KPIs are like to the day, and also very nervous because if she gets upset,
His voice
and
got
then
really gravelly, didn't it, Shayna? Wait.
Robotic.
Yeah.
What's you got something stuck in your throat, EJ?
did I get lost?
No,
You
you
got
got super
you're
gravelly.
Still?
froggy, roboty.
Yes.
Oh
So,
well.
No, you're
oh,
back.
there you're back. I find it actually, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I love meeting people in person. We have an in-person cohort that meets here of students of mine every Thursday. And then we have our online students. And I love seeing people in person, but I feel like you can be even more efficient in getting your work done when you're all looking at the same thing on a computer screen and you're not in person. So I almost cringe saying that because my love language is quality time and I want to be with my people that I care about. But I feel like we can still accomplish that on screens, which is that's kind of a weird thing to admit for me.
So I'm kind of going to be selfish here. That's what I do. Uh, I want to get to the part where we solve my problem.
And you have a
Let's do
major
it.
problem right now.
Let's do it.
I have a new technician starting on the
You have a
16th.
different problem, EJ. The
Yeah.
problem is that you smoked way too many cigarettes this morning and you have that gravelly cigarette voice that old ladies get when they've been smoking for 100 years.
So you can't hear me,
Oh,
right?
Now we
no,
can.
now you're back.
Okay. The new tech
Yes.
that starts on Monday.
Yeah.
How do I get this guy started, and how do we keep him as part of the team and keep that culture?
It's much harder, much harder. And that, like for instance, okay, so EJ sort of tipped this a while ago. Like, so we hired a lady in Michigan. The only reason we hired her, we're in Southern Illinois. The only reason we hired her is because she comes from the appliance industry, so she understands that. She's ran offices, she's ran technicians before, but she needs to stay at home with an ailing mom. And so that's the thing, that first thing when we said that we were wanting to hire her, that's the first thing out of Jason's mouth was, but we can't keep the same culture. She definitely will not have the same feel as everybody else. What we are building here is not going to be the same. Now he's going to be coming into your office some, correct?
Yeah,
But he won't be there as much as the others. So at least you do get some with him, and so you get some of that time. Whereas our time is going to be Zoom and phone call with her. Um, it's really truly going to be about taking as much advantage of the time that you do have with him to really truly push, and then finding those other ways. Like for instance, we use Slack, and so we're always in talking to her or whatever, all of our team. So it's all, constant communication with our team, whether they're sitting next to us or in a different state. So there's just going to be all those little tiny things that you have to figure out, and you have to make sure that you keep him looped and keep him, going in once a week and saying, how are you feeling? Do you feel a part of this team? Like, and encourage him to be honest. And what do you think that we can do to help out with that?
so maybe a little extra intentional about it. Uh,
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing, Jenny, is I'm realizing that some of my processes for text and office are not going to be able to work with him. And one of those is parts. We have this whole process with Stephanie joining the team that she orders the parts. Now, that part is remote. We have a Google form that we fill out, and it drops our parts requests on an Excel sheet that she uses to order from. Uh, but when we receive the parts, we receive them at our office. And then we have this whole system where we have shelves by the back door that she organizes them, labels them, and we track it in shortly. We know what shelf it's going to be on based off the customer's last name. And he's not going to get that benefit of having that super organized system, knowing where his parts are. And we're going to have
Where
to
will they
deliver
go?
his. So far, all we've come up with is going to go to his house
Yep.
because our remote office location is not one that you want to have packages delivered to.
Yeah.
And that's just because it's in a shopping center type thing, like a little old strip mall. And there's not going to be anybody there, so I don't want to leave these packages outside.
Yeah. I mean, I
So,
think you brought up a couple different things, EJ. One is communication and morale and trying to make people feel part of the team. And, you can achieve that by just having I'm trying to mimic something that Joe is nostalgic to him from many years ago in the industry. And that was when they had CB radios in their work bands, and they were all on their radios together sharing about what's going on with the different calls they had, or has anybody seen this issue? And then everybody's chiming in and they're all listening. Whoever's on the road driving at the time is listening and chiming in. And I feel like you could achieve that same kind of thing with a Zoom call that's just an open Zoom every morning, like a recurring meeting that people could hop on, or just at a certain time have a conversation. Okay.
yeah. Paul,
You want to?
sorry.
I was going to say, do
Paul,
you want to read that?
Paul used to work for Action, and they do this. He says, think about sending direct to customer already paid for. After going for myself and always having parts sent to the customer, uh, when I switched to my house, boy, did I appreciate it the other way. Yeah, so it is because Paul is at that stage now where he's still doing all of this stuff. Um, so I mean, there's pros and cons both ways, and I ain't disagreeing, Paul, that this may be uh, an end result uh, to do this. There is extra expenses with this. I know that you pay shipping on every delivery
Mm-hmm.
instead of bundling, but then you also don't have the processing part. You don't have the time of checking them in and getting somebody to schedule the install. Instead, the customer would call us and say, "Hey, I received my part," and there's that. So there is some great value to this, and that is something I'll probably be checking into. Thanks, Paul. Uh, I there's some things I'm worried about, and just like everything that we do with change, I love change, but some change still makes me nervous. Uh, so we'll have to study into that. It's not a bad idea. Dr. Dan says ServiceWorks tracks and gives techs the parts request ability, and we will direct ship to remote techs. Yeah. Now, one thing I like is Marcone has their system set up where you can add each tech as a user, and you can use the drop down, and whatever tech is selected, it'll send to that designated address. Uh, so that's
Well,
something.
one thing that Dr. Dan mentioned is his software, and that's one of the little nuances that I thought was an important thing to bring up this morning, and that we're kind of struggling with right now because we don't have a remote version of our software. And so we're at this point investigating different options for software that can work in the cloud and looking at pricing and what things they do. And some of them manage parts and some of them don't. And some of them are supported by Shayna's team and some aren't. Some are in the cloud. Some are just more usable than others. So we kind of have two on our minds now, but that's just something to really think about, especially if you're just starting out, is to be very careful in your selection of what you're doing so that it can support remote work in the future.
Yeah.
Because we're kind of limited right now and having to make a big change 3 years in, and that might not be the best. But we're going to figure it out. But it's a thing we have to figure out in the middle of our trajectory of our company instead of at the beginning. So
Yeah.
it's something
Don't
to
think
consider.
about where you are now. Think about where you want to be.
Right.
And that's with anything that you do, whether it's software or phone system or anything. You want to set up for the future. So,
Yeah.
because otherwise you won't be able to do remote technicians or remote office.
So what about looking for team? Like, what are some different traits that we might look for in a remote person that we might not really worry about in somebody that's we're going to see every day in our office? So, and what kind of interview questions would you think about asking somebody that you're considering for a remote position?
Well,
Shayna, do you want? Oh, sorry, EJ. Sounds like EJ had an idea. Go ahead.
I don't want to stop saying that either, but hindsight, I don't think I asked any questions to this guy uh, that I would think of as questions to answer your question with. Um, I was, but in a way I did. So, in a remote person, you obviously want somebody that's self motivated, somebody that takes initiative, somebody that knows what they're doing a little faster than a trainee, which is why Shayna considered somebody that was already from the appliance repair industry. Uh, I was really nervous about hiring a new trainee in this other area. Uh, but this guy came across my plate here, or whatever. Uh, he has some experience, so I know I can train him quickly. Make sure he knows how to do it my way, and use our software and our structures and processes, and then I can turn him loose and hopefully trust that he's doing it right. But for me, the part that makes it okay for me is he's still close enough that I can get there. The Michigan thing would be a little more nervous to me uh, if it wasn't just like an office situation, right? Uh, my goal is to grow to cover the entire state of Kentucky, which some of you may seem like that's a small state, but uh, it's 5 hours to the other side. If you drove straight through end to end, it'd probably be more like 8 hours. Uh, that's not just a quick drive over
Mm-hmm.
to help somebody that's got a van that broke down or they need an extra hand. Uh, or let's get together and meet and make sure we all know each other. So those kind of things are going to be a lot more important moving forward.
Well, one of the things that comes to my mind about some of the companies in our industry that have multiple locations across different states is there's different cultures that we have in our country from state to state and different customer expectations. And just like we were talking about earlier, kind of joking around about courtesy and just, depending on what region you're serving, people have very different expectations for their service companies. And I think that's interesting too, to try to expand into a different area that's a little culturally different from where your home service area is. How do you understand that customer base, and do you even know what you don't know about that new area of people, or their kind of, California, New York, Texas, North Carolina, the Midwest, all really different kinds of cultures to serve. So I feel like
Eastern
that's kind of
Kentucky to
interesting.
Western Kentucky is drastically different.
Well, look, I mean, even Asheville to the beaches of North Carolina to some of the rural towns too. I mean, very, very different types of people that you're serving, or even when you look at serving different ages of people, young people versus retirees. It's just all of that comes into play with trying to hire somebody in a remote area. And there's some advantages to hiring somebody remote then, because they know the people in their area, whereas you might not. So I think, we can leverage some of that, those local traditions that they're aware of. And people want to know the people that are working in their home are their neighbors. And that's something that's really cool to sell.
Yeah. Well, we cut off Shayna on her answer.
I don't remember what the question is now.
What kind of
Questions that
things
you would
do you
ask a
look for?
remote,
Oh,
interview questions.
um, I think the biggest thing is really truly before you even interview is define um, and think about how often you want them to come. How are you going to get them there? Are you going to cover the cost of them coming? It's really truly the first step is truly you deciding what you need from them being remote, and then figuring out a way to make it work for both of you. So for instance, what we did with our new lady is she actually came here the first week and she trained with our team the first week and then she went home. She paid for the cost of the travel, but after 60 days, she's still here. I'm reimbursing her. And I want to get to where once a quarter, once we're past that, once a quarter when we have our team meeting, we actually pay for her to come and spend a week here with the team and be able to come to our quarterly meeting that we have. But that right there at that point will be an expense off of us. And so those are things that for instance, the very first get-go, are you willing to pay for your trip here? And she hesitated, but then she said, I am, because she said, I see what you're doing there and I absolutely love it. So, but I think that's the biggest thing is figure out, because of them being remote, do you ever want them to come to you? And if so, how much are you willing to sacrifice, or how much you want them to sacrifice?
So,
I
Shayna,
do.
sorry.
Go ahead, EJ.
We've been talking a lot with your team about uh, growth opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
advancing in the company, uh, incentives, and everything. Have you considered if this particular person wants to advance and what that would look like being remote?
We are, because of we're actually reforming the structure of our company, and as long as she can maintain and keep going, she will actually be able to be one of the managers that we're putting in place if that's what she desires to be. So there's going to be some that she can, some that she can't. We're talking about our training manager. In about a year, we'll be considering moving back home to Chicagoland. And at that point, training manager can't be remote. And so, we were talking to him yesterday about, would you want to stay with us and take one of these and be one of these other managers, or just be a CSR? And he said 100%. So we have a year for him to figure out where we can plug him in at the highest level that we can plug him in, and him still be effective with our team.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
Jenny?
we're trying.
Yeah. So I guess thinking about the future and where you see your companies in the future, I think we agree that there's a place for remote work somewhere. In order to grow and expand in our companies, we need to embrace some type of remote work. And your thoughts are about really kind of policy oriented and putting in policies in place. So that also means accessibility when it comes to documents and things like that. So we've kind of been playing around with Notion for our policy management, and some people just use Google Docs and stuff like that, but that's something we didn't talk about. Is just all of the operational types of softwares outside of the actual software that's running your business. So putting some of those types of things in place so that people have access to all your policies and procedures and stuff like that. Just something to think about as an action step. If you're thinking that you want to expand remotely, to start putting those types of infrastructure things in place for your team. Any thoughts on that as we kind of move towards closing up, like some action steps? Like, what's your number one action step, Shayna, that if you're starting to introduce remote people, like what's an action step that you need to put in place?
I think for me, it was really truly about making sure that if I'm going to do this, that it's sustainable, that I have the capability. What happens if her internet goes down, or what happens if the computer doesn't work, and how can we actually access her computer to help her with like, for instance, we changed a new platform, a new phone platform, and we had to remote in and be able to help her set up and learn the phone platform versus just walking over to her. So it's really truly about, you got to try to think about all of the what ifs, and that can possibly come with having a remote. And what is the plan that you're going to take in order to make sure that if that what if happens, that you know what you're doing, and you're not struggling to
That is
get it
like
fixed.
the whole technology aspect. Like, you almost have to have an IT person on hand to handle anything that comes up, which that I didn't even think about until you just said that.
And we do. We have to, because we have so much technology.
Yeah.
So
So
Once
EJ,
again,
what's
though,
your
that's technically remote because they don't work for us. So
they're a
they don't work
contractor. Yeah.
here. They're a contractor, yes.
Sharing the policies. I'm not quite there yet, but I do think the first step is having policies, having an answer. Like Shane was saying, you kind of have to have some foresight of what kind of problems you're going to face and an idea of how you're going to solve them. And the more of those that you have in your processes and procedures, the less involved you have to be to fix them. Uh, but then the next step is how do you make sure everybody has access to that? Uh, Jenny had showed me Notion. I think that's a pretty good option. Um, I'm not there yet, but I plan to be by the end of the year. Now
Our
that
daughter
I'm going
Logan,
to have a full staff.
our daughter Logan took it to a new level with Notion. She has created herself checklists. All her classes are in there. She has mastered Notion. And I found a tutorial that's like 2 hours long, and I learned really quickly that I was underutilizing it. So it is a really low cost, super robust option to dive into if you have some time to learn it. But yeah, I'm excited to try that out. For us, we just need to solve this problem of having some type of cloud-based operating system for our actual customer interactions and our technician interactions. So we have to solve that. So I guess that's my challenge to throw out to people. Like Shayna said earlier, think of your decisions with the end in mind, or your end goal that you want to achieve when you're onboarding new technology. Think about, is that going to take you to the level that you want to be in 3 or 5 years? Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yep.
So, well, that's all I have today. That is the end of my list of ideas.
All right.
And I think we're almost at an hour. So that one actually was longer than I usually aim for.
Yeah, it is. Well, you had a thought at the end here.
Yeah. Do you want to read that thought, EJ?
I will.
Let's do it.
I don't know. Is this what ChatGPT gave you the thought?
Yes. This is the
ChatGPT is thinking
Deep
of
Thoughts
thought.
by ChatGPT.
The future of work is evolving, and it's crucial to stay ahead of the curve by embracing change, choosing the right tools, and investing in our teams. We can not only adapt, but thrive in the new world of work.
Mm-hmm.
Deep thoughts from ChatGPT.
And there you go. There
So,
you have it.
ChatGPT is already working on your business. When are you going to start?
There
That was
you go.
EJ. That was deep thoughts from EJ. That was not as good as ChatGPT. But all right, let's wrap it up here. Thank you guys. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
Thank
watching,
you.
and thank you girls for being part of this. So if you want more from Jenny, you can go to theoutcomeacademy.com and Shayna at myofficehelp.com. And us, servicealliancegroup.com.
There you
All the
go.
way up top. Couple couple pieces of business here. We got the next mastermind for all access members, September 21st, Marketing 101 from Mike Carson. We had
Awesome.
a lot of good feedback and interaction in last month's on Google optimization. So you might want to tune into this one, see what you can get. Again, it's for all access members of the servicealliancegroup.com. And PSA is coming up. We will all be there.
Yep.
Mhm.
They've let us each have a class. So if you want to come and see what we have to offer there, come to PSA. I think we have a code. I think it might be SAG50. If that don't work, let us know. We'll see what does. I think you get $50 off. But let's get to work.
Awesome. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.